message to OMG's
message
AD carry.
OMG.
They're already targeting to shut him down. He's got like a 19.2 KDA right now in the group stage. It's just through the roof because of him getting so many kills. That would mean they have to ban Nautilus.
I'd love to see how close that is actually between him and Peke right now, because Peke's definitely put his stats right up there. It is actually Corki, so Sack. Not really sure what they're aiming for with that one.
You just had to go for it.
I had to go for it. That's what they were spelling
Sacrilege.
out. Of course. That is exactly what they were aiming at, Chad. Thank you very much for that one. Orianna is going to be the first pick for Gaming Gear EU.
And that's actually fairly standard for Mazarin.
Yes.
It's pretty much his main champion. That and Gragas have been the two things he's had the most success on. Gaming Gear as a team generally tries to play a conservative laning phase with a Lunar, trying to make as many plays as possible and then transition into a stronger teamfight phase. That doesn't work for them when they're overmatched in a lot of these games at the World Championships.
I'd love to hear from Monty exactly how much we've seen the Korean teams playing Aatrox lately, because in Europe, it's definitely been one of their main champions.
Not much.
In fact, really, it's one of those champions actually I would think almost deserves a ban against the likes of Fnatic and Gambit, because Cyanide, Darien, Diamond, they're all going to be going for that champion. We do see Renekton getting locked in as well for Impact in that top lane, and it's actually fairly standard stuff so far. Zyra and Jarvan coming out from Gaming Gear.
Yeah, and actually to kind of touch on the Aatrox a little bit more, because I think it's an interesting storyline. The champions that Europe kind of used in isolation from the rest of the world, they played more Kassadin than everyone else.
Yep.
They were the first adopters of Fizz, obviously Aatrox jungle, and I almost want to say they were playing Ahri a little bit before everyone else as well. And especially with the success of Gambit and Fnatic over in Group B, so many of those champions are kind of just
bleeding
into the rest of the world's champion pool. Now you can see SKT as they move through this tournament kind of picking up a little bit more Aatrox. And I expect it more of it, because even at the Korean regionals, they were already playing a lot of Fizz matchups, and all of that is just really impacting the rest of the world.
Well, speaking of impact, looks like it may well be Gragas for Faker in this mid lane. We saw how he did previously up against OMG. No! Leona coming out for the support. I want to go back to your point for Kassadin, of course, for the European teams.
Yeah.
It amazed me that actually it was allowed through, because that is pretty much one of the first bans in Europe right now. It was throughout the summer, because it got so strong, because the likes of Peke and Alex Each had got so strong on that champion. It surprised me that nobody really researched it enough to say, just let it through. Maybe that was why. It was like, oh, he's not playing that.
Yeah, and Krepo experienced it more than anyone else. I know that in North America, one of the big reasons Kassadin gets left through is there's not many Kassadin players. He's a champion who surprisingly requires an incredible amount of patience to play. And you'd also think, like, how hard the Kassadin pick is to pull off and how almost counterintuitive it is to the styles we're seeing, with everyone trying to put so much early pressure on mid lane with lane swaps and the like. To be able to withstand that with Kassadin just doesn't seem like it would work.
Well, Gaming Gear have been doing that all through the International Wildcard Tournament. Pain
Still
Gaming
gets a cheer.
were not finding it impressive, to be honest.
No.
It's not.
But
I can tell you
Gaming
a story
Gear's
for Pain Gaming, though.
All right.
Pain Gaming obviously were in the
Brazilian team in the
the Brazilian team were obviously in the studios practicing a week before that international tournament, and the European teams, in their wisdom, decided to draw a big Mordekaiser on the whiteboard where they were practicing with a hue.
How'd they take it?
They took it in the spirit that it was meant. Of course, they enjoyed it.
Who doesn't like Mordekaiser? I love Mordekaiser.
Well, they never play it. That's the thing. So the teams don't. Obviously, they do in solo queue, it seems. So Varus and Kennen have been locked in. So relatively standard team coming out from Gaming Gear. We're just going to see MBS on that Kennen in that top lane.
So, we're talking about the last pick for SKT right here?
NBS, we are going to get the last pick. It is going to be Gragas. We saw it sort of hovered over earlier for Faker. Faker once again played a very good Gragas earlier.
Yeah, his Gragas against Cool really dominated. We've seen up and down Gragas play from many different people. His record so far here at the World Championships is actually not that impressive. Gragas has lost much more than he's won. But this is SKT we're talking about here. They have an extremely strong pile-on composition right now. It's a little bit of, you'd think, anti-synergy with Gragas and Leona trying to get the lockdown and disperse as well as Aatrox going in. But I feel like SKT is the type of team that could pull this off.
And the problem with Gragas is, you think back to the Season 2 World Championships with Alex Ich playing Gragas, actually. It's one of those champions that can have a highlight reel or a disaster reel.
Yeah.
You know, when those ultis miss, they miss Beta badly.
There's a little bit of variance with him. We saw Peke dodging a lot of Gragas ultimates when Dade tried to play him earlier. And hey, like, even though we see very conventional teams coming out overall, at least we get to see Faker try to make some plays on Gragas.
Okay, so as the game loads up, let's have a look at what you guys, the viewers, have voted on this match. You lost the last one. You're going to make sure you get a one in here. Well, no surprise. You've all gone with what the analysis guys think. 93% of you give it to SK Telecom T1.
Not a huge surprise, knowing that Gaming Gear is yet to pick up a win. But we're going to see them try, right? Like, Gaming Gear has definitely been going for it in every single one of these games. They've had a couple close early games to end. Then it's really the mid game that really seems to be the disaster moment for them, where the team style and the playmaking really comes into account.
And the big problem there is that's where SK Telecom T1 come into their own.
Is the best.
That is where they really dominate. So we're going to load into the game, ladies and gentlemen. You can see the beautiful arena set up here in Los Angeles. This is the final day of groups. We will be having the quarterfinals here as well. They'll be coming up on Monday and Tuesday, but right now it is all about Group A, and it's Gaming Gear as the blue team on your screen up against SK Telecom T1 as the red team. What are we thinking from this one, Jat? Obviously, SK Telecom, big, clear favorites. Probably not going to see any level 1 craziness.
If we see level 1 craziness, I'd expect it to come from Gaming Gear, because they're the ones who need to make the ridiculous plays early on to try and get a monstrous early game edge over SK Telecom. But at the same time, they just have Inspiro's grasping roots if they want to try to make a play. And Gaming Gear is actually setting up a relatively defensive line of scrimmage right here, and it's SKT who is grouped as 5. So if any type of counterattack happens, it will be late for Gaming Gear.
Safe check, Gaming Gear using that Demacia standard to keep them at bay. Alanir not falling for that one, keeping vision of SKT. And while this is all happening, we do see Gaming Gear, of course, going around and placing those wards. So standard, ward, invade, placing the wards. MBS, though, sticking around on top of one.
Yeah, SKT as well isn't going to want to give away anything of any type of crazy or creative level 1 strategy they have, because this is all planned. This is a very standard level 1 opening, and this is a danger ping right now. Look out, MBS. He's looking out.
He's looking out. He's already backed off. So MBS does step away from any danger, and we will see standard stuff. So SK Telecom, they're not really giving anything away for future quarterfinals or other matchups. Looking towards this one, Gaming Gear, they're playing for pride, they're playing for that place, they're playing for the win right now, frankly. And what better win than take the scalp of one of the teams that have qualified for the quarterfinals?
That's a powerful win. They're able to take the scalp off them right there. But anyway, SK Telecom would be quite a trophy. You're absolutely right. They were so hyped coming into this. They're still hyped moving through this, because just because they've lost to OMG doesn't mean they're out of this. We know that SK Telecom has the ability to adapt. And, you know, I'm really wondering how the quarterfinals are going to work out for a team like SK Telecom. Just because, and we're going to see in this game particularly how even though they're incredibly mid lane focused, how balanced their attack actually is. Impact is able to play higher damage and almost more technically complex top laners, but it still works within the general context of their team, because Bengi knows how to have such a large influence over the game.
Well, we do see the 2 lanes have managed to switch up. They're going towards his top lane. Inspiro was locked up briefly there by Mandu, but Inspiro does react. He's going to get locked in. This is going to surely be First Blood. Exhaust was used. He's trying to give it to Piglet. He will give it to Piglet. First Blood SK Telecom.
Leona early on aggression right there. Zyra incredibly squishy at level 1. Needs to keep her distance. As soon as that Zenith Blade landed, it was trouble. And now, if they could have gotten the stun, that would have been a kill.
Oh, it doesn't manage to land the stun or the slow. And MBS burning that flash early on there. Mazarine in this mid lane. He's trying to keep Faker at bay. It's the only lane that is shoving in deep, and he's going to be careful. Bottom lane, we do see Bengi. He's coming around for round 2.
Yeah, and that lightning rush for Kennen is back up. It's all about whether or not you can slice and dice in range or get the knock-up from that Aatrox Q. Can he get the Dark Flight coming in? There's also a counter gank coming from Aluna. The stun doesn't land again. MBS. Oh, they flash.
Oh, they flash for the stun. They get the knock-up. They're going deep on the turret. Remember, he does have a passive, but Bengi, he is going to get that passive popped, and MBS escaped.
Yeah, he's a sneaky Kennen right there. He forced the flash out of both, or just Impact, but as well as the Ignite, and then they got the passive out of Bengi, thanks to Aluna's Dragon Strike right at the end on Jarvan. I gotta say, it's a decent fight from MBS in that lane against Impact, having to be the recipient of back-to-back ganks.
Yordle ninjas, the best ninjas it seems in this case.
Well, the other ones got banned.
The others did get banned out, so he's representing right now. Alinir will be taking the lane tax, is the phrase for what he's doing right there. Although, when MBS isn't there, it's not really a tax, it's just cleaning up free farm. Deadly Brother trying to land that piercing arrow on Piglet, just sidesteps it quite easily. Actually equal in farm between these two, but of course don't forget Piglet did get that first blood, that extra gold, beneficial to SK Telecom.
And the first blood hasn't really held its influence over the lane quite yet because Piglet is waiting to go and buy items. I'd imagine Piglet's going to be doing the Trinity Force Rush on Ezreal that we've seen pretty much everybody doing. The added move speed it gives is just too much for these guys to pass up nowadays that the Trinity Force has been added, as well as just the 200% damage on hit proc that Trinity Force provides compared to just the 150% before the Trinity Force buffs.
Spyro going out, warding out that Tribush, making sure that Bengi doesn't sneak up on them this time around. They have a ward in the bottom lane as well. And Spyro looking to do something here, but Faker just stepping off, taking away that vision and backing off. Piglet taking the piercing arrow. Deadly Brother keeping pressure down. The bottom lane, we see MBS coming in back on towards Impact. We just saw in the video how much of a Impact makes
one
as it work. Make one mistake, you're in all sorts of trouble. MBS so far has burned that flash, had the lightning surge away. He's had 2 lives used already, potentially could be a third one. Impact goes in, goes aggressive and comes out very strongly against MBS there.
I can't really say MBS has made that many mistakes early on against Impact, but at the same time, SKT hasn't been a team that shines brightly in the early game. They generally have done poorly to average in their early games, I'd have to say. They've played the early game 3v1 dives substandard as far as the rest of the world goes, but then once they get into the mid game, especially if they're entering it with a laning advantage that they are slowly building over Gaming Gear, it's going to be pretty painful.
That's quite a few question marks. They're worried, and they rightly should be.
Where are they going?
Alinir's down here, and that's actually baiting them into it because Faker's coming down, Bengi's coming down, MBS is going to lightning surge away. Alinir is going to slide in there. They're going to dive on. They catch both of them, bounce them in the air. Faker now is going to join the party. He's just hiding off in the Tribush.
Yeah, Faker's thinking better of that one because Bengi and Impact weren't able to get enough damage done onto NBS and a Lunar. It means Faker's roam is just a bit of time wasted, and he's got to run back to that mid lane where Mazarin is holding his own.
And this top lane is actually pushing quite well from Gaming Gear so far. Deadly Brother and Inspyro criticized as one of the weaker lanes of Gaming Gear, but up against Piglet and Mandu, they're doing their thing so far.
Piglet and Mandu, despite the early kill, have not really been able to put a snowball on that lane. I have to really give credit. One of the big things, though, is Bengi and Pumandu have not shopped. I feel they should shop, and then they might be able to make more of an impact.
Big chunk of damage coming out from Bengi here. Alinir, that Deadly Brother having to use that barrier. That will be a kill. Piglet's the one that picks that up. Mazarin, meanwhile, getting aggressed on, but you see Faker running all across the map. We do see Alinir getting away just about with low health. Faker's ulti was used on Mazarin, as well as Mazarin's Shockwave. A lot of aggression all across the map in every lane.
Yeah, even without shopping, Piglet and Mandu just got another kill. So even though it seemed Spyro were holding their own in that lane, that was not the case. Both those kills actually happened before Pumandu hit level 6 on Leona. Bengi does have his passive up if he needs a little help, and MBS,
he doesn't need it. He's going to go aggressive on MBS. Lightning Surge will come out. That's going to put a lot of damage down on Bengi. Like you mentioned, he has got it, but Blood Price is on. Barrow comes in. Faker picks up a kill.
Stylish right there by Faker. He did not even have his explosive cask, but he gets him with the barrel roll. That's the type of kill that you don't want to give Faker because Faker didn't even have to work for that one. And now Mazarin has to deal with that extra gold that Faker's picked up.
True Shot Barrage rattling past. Mazarin will pick up that blue buff though, but Bengi takes away that red. Pretty much making Gaming Gear's jungle his own so far in that bottom area of the map. And you can see now Impact simply farming up between the lanes, making sure he makes every little bit of use of the advantage he's now gained over MBS.
Yeah, there's that one mistake almost. NBS running through the red buff, searching for a friend, but the friend was not really a friend and it cost him his life.
And Inspyro, he's going to get locked up. That will be a kill. Who's going to pick it up though? Or is it? May turn this one around. Deadly Brother wants to get himself a kill, and he will. Deadly Brother gets that one. MBS flashes away. Bengi gives chase. Red buff is on him. He should be able to dive and catch on towards MBS. Meanwhile, he's running into Faker. 3-man close on towards him here. Will he escape? Oh, not quite caught by that slow. He may have escaped here, you know.
I think he snuck around, ran the full circle around the SKT players, and it almost seemed like everyone on SKT thought someone else was going to finish off the kill. They didn't get the turret or the cannon. Great escape.
Great escape indeed. Gaming Gear, of course, with their first kill of the game in that top lane. Deadly Brother did pick that up, but now you see Piglet going very aggressive in a 2v1 situation. True Shot Barrage fired off, not going to find his home. The Mystic Shot will on towards Deadly Brother, though. He's going to have to back out of that.
Yeah, Trinity Force being rushed on Piglet as well. You can see he's already hitting for a nice little bit of damage with the early Sheen. I have the feeling if that True Shot Barrage would have landed on a Deadly Brother, it would have been a kill. So well done by Deadly Brother to get that sidestep in and prevent another death to Piglet in lane.
But let's look at this bottom lane. MBS, 36 CS. Impact, 81. This is a bit of a problem, and there goes the tower.
Yep. Top laners in the bottom lane.
Big difference.
Impact, Renekton, lane dominance. It's actually something that coming in I wasn't too sure of, because there were a few teams that really favored Renekton, even though he had been mostly non-existent from the European and the North American games for the most part. He had died out. Whereas China, when I was watching their regionals, Royal and OMG were competing for first pick Renekton many times. They were banning him out as well. And then also now, SKT's pulling out their Renekton as well. I was thinking Renekton might end up having actually a very low win rate in this tournament, just depending on which overall region that I thought was going to be weaker or stronger. I knew that Mineski was going to be playing or valuing Renekton very highly, but now that we see teams like SK Telecom coming in with Renekton as well, whole new ballgame.
Indeed, it's a whole new ball game. It's a champion that Darian used to run a lot of in the spring, but like you say, it faded out. Didn't barely play it in the summer. Only towards the end of it, he started playing it. Faker, going to be the focus target by Alanir, but no chance is he going to fall for that one. Plenty of escape, can slide away if he needs to. Instead, he's buying time for the rest of SK Telecom to take this dragon down. It's a two-man dragon. They are not sure about this one.
Yeah, Beggy's a little bit low, and trying to do dragon against Kennen, even if it's just a 3v3, is a dangerous proposition. SKT's AD carry and support are killing it.
Not going to get the turnaround kill either. Mandu is not going to go down from that one. Deadly Brother with the Chain of Corruption just got simply exhausted out. Mandu walks away from it. It's 4-1 now for SK Telecom.
And Mandu's looking for another kill, or at least zoning out Deadly Brother. That lane is going to be running away from Gaming Gear. I think it's already gone.
It's great to see Leona making a comeback as well. That's one of the supports we haven't seen a great deal of. Yellowstar has run it a lot lately for the European LCS team. And
3 games.
If you think of the Crepo on the desk, used to be formerly, I would say, one of the best Leona players in the world. You think back to the OGN 2012 spring, I'm going to say, that they were in, when they were up against Frost in the finals.
Yeah, I got to ask Crepo when he gives us his answer after this game. Why'd he stop, man?
Why do you stop? Why do you stop playing Leona? I don't think he did. I think the rest of the team said no. I don't know. I'm making it up. But SK Telecom, they're going to pick up a dragon here. And that will be a pretty clean, easy one for them there. That's going to stretch that gold lead to just around about 4,000 coming into the 12-minute mark.
Yeah, this is looking like an SKT team in control. And now it's actually just a matter of SKT kind of getting their footing in this group. They know they're already qualified for the quarterfinals. They do not know who they're going to be playing against, because we're going to have our draw at the conclusion of today's games. And really what they're doing now is practicing their mid-game and making sure that they can execute properly and close out games, because a team of SK Telecom skill level right now, 4,500 gold up, only 13 minutes in, should be able to close as long as they are executing precisely.
Deadly Brother just getting locked up. Didn't get taken out in the end, though. Piglet trying to put some damage down. We do see Cataclysm going. Good piercing arrow onto Piglet. Has to be flashing away from that one. Lanier wants to finish him off. Has he got the damage? Oh, the Grasping Roots doesn't land. It will be Inspiro getting the kill, but now he's in all sorts of trouble. Bengi comes in. Mandu will pick himself up. A double kill.
Mandu was tired of feeding all the kills to Piglet, so he decided to take 2 of his own, even when Bengi was up there for the counter kill. And even though that worked out for SKT, you can see what teams try and do against Leona, and why some teams do shy away from her, is because as a melee support, and the fact that when she lands her Zenith Blade, it sucks her in, she is incredibly committed every time they go in on a fight, and is vulnerable to counter ganks. That's what a Lunar is continually trying to do to that lane. And here comes Faker.
Oh, he's going to try and catch on Mazzarini. Not going to happen. And Faker with that barrel, just forces him away. There is a problem though, because it's a 14-minute Trinity Force.
Yeah, it's a pretty big problem. I've seen 13-minute Trinity Forces.
Yep.
Those are slightly larger problems. But the Vamp Scepter as well, I think, puts him over the top. 3-1 and 2 on Piglet. Both buffs were just stolen from Gaming Gear, which generally shows a total lack of control in the jungle. There's still not all 3 turrets down. I really do have to credit, thus far in the game, Mazarin on Gaming Gear, holding his own entirely against Faker. He's the only person on Gaming Gear who hasn't lost his turret. Faker picked up an easy kill in the jungle that was effectively gifted, and Mazarin hasn't let it affect him. 6 up on farm, and now it's really just the rest of the map collapsing in around it that's going to end up costing Gaming Gear that mid-turret.
And check out Bengi. He's actually just gone back and got that Bilgewater Cutlass, but he actually went for the Boots of Mobility. This is something we used to see back in the spring a lot from junglers.
Yeah, the Boots of Mobility double Doran's Blade before the Spirit Stone. We actually saw Aranea doing it on his Aatrox very recently over at Gamescom, and it's basically about forcing as many fights as possible, because as a heavily ganking jungler, especially if you have farm-centric mid laners, you're only about transferring your power to your laners as much as possible, and you're not caring about yourself. That's the way Bengi plays. I think the Chinese junglers go even a little farther towards that spectrum. I know sometimes Lovelin with the Moby Bear yesterday didn't even go to lanes. Didn't even go to the jungle. He was a laner, essentially. And Bengi is a little bit more towards the farm, but without the Spirit Stone, it means he's definitely looking to kill.
BS down this bottom lane. He's got to be careful they don't dive him. They were diving him at level 4, so I don't think they're going to be worrying about it too much at level 11 here. Impact is just keeping him in tow. Interesting first item from MBS, though. Went for that needlessly large rod after double Dorans.
Well, he had pretty much already abandoned any hope of winning that lane, so he's not actually staying close to Impact. Otherwise, you'd think he'd go for a Seeker's Arm Guard earlier on, so he'd have some armor. But because he does not, he's just hoping he gets in a team fight, has that extra ability power, has slightly better farming with his long-range Q because he does more damage thanks to needlessly large rod, and he's basically just trying to catch up by skipping items.
Trying to skip items. We'll see whether that works out, because SK Telecom are going to take down the 3rd outer turret. That is systematic destruction of everything around the outside. 16 minutes gone. Actually, fairly slow in terms of Korean teams taking down those 3 outer turrets. So Gaming Gear grouping up in this mid lane. Piercing Arrow does manage to find its target on towards Piglet. I think it was just simply clearing out the waves. The bottom lane seems to be the next focus, though. Impact hiding in the bush.
It's a big crocodile in a small bush.
They're going to dive in. It's going to be Alanir that does manage to get locked up. Bengi taking the tower damage, so we do see the Cataclysm coming out, but simply done. That is just locking his own team up. Not going to work out too well. Impact is going to try and get away from this one. There's a shockwave coming in. The damage, is it going to be there? Mazarin will pick it up. Now they're going towards Bengi. Faker also being pushed, punished here, trying to clone Ross out that barrel. Deadly Brother felt the full force of that, but while it all happens, Piglet takes the mid in a turret.
Hey, at least Impact was trying to laugh in the face of Gaming Gear right there, and they killed them for it. So Mazarin got the revenge, landed the shockwave, and picked one back up. And as we expected, this is a very controlled game more than anything else from SK Telecom. They're not trying to pull off any fancy rotations. They are playing as standard as possible because they know that all of their potential quarterfinals opponents are watching them right now, and they do not want to give away any vital piece of strategy.
Let's not forget, SK Telecom T1 came into this tournament as big favorites, has to be said. Everybody really had them down as the victors of this tournament, so they've got a lot to live up to. They've seen the Korean team Samsung Ozone going out in the group stages. SK Telecom have made it to the quarterfinals, but they're already realizing this is not a clean-cut tournament for the Korean teams.
I have to say, it must have been a huge shock to a lot of the people who follow the Korean League of Legends scene closely, because coming up and watching the quality of teams in the Champions League for OGN, it did seem like there was a chance Korea would come in here and just dominate the tournament. And that has not been the case whatsoever. Ozone going out was a complete shock. Even SK Telecom dropping a map to OMG early on means it's a totally open playing field right now. We'll effectively have 2 Korean teams in the quarterfinals, 2 European teams, 1 North American team, 1 team from Southeast Asia. You know, there's a lot of balance, and anyone's game.
And we should point out that there's actually SK Telecom T1, that was MBS being melted down the bottom. SK Telecom T1, the fact that they won the summer against KT Rolls to B was the reason that Ozone got there in the first place. Because if they'd have lost that, they were 2-0 down, came back 1-3-2. If they'd have lost that match, we would have had KT Rolls to B here instead of Ozone.
And I think one of the things that may have affected the Korean team's almost lackluster performance early on here is how we talk about how the Chinese scene is isolated, how isolated the Korean scene had become. We're actually just going to take a look at this kill. Just a combo of ultimates. NBS dead to rights. It's the coordination from SKT right now. But really just getting back to the Korean teams in general, it seemed like they were only focusing on beating each other. And it's really come back to haunt them.
Uh-oh, they're trying to get the chain of corruption down. Faker's like, yeah, I know you're focusing me. I'm just going to walk away. Alan here in all sorts of trouble. Impact's going to try and slide in. Does get away. The barrel coming in, not quite going to get its target though.
Faker really wanted that one. And I think overall SK Telecom is adapting a little bit better to the other influence. But just the fact that they had so much struggle against the 3v1 tower dives of OMG and even the 3v1 tower dives of TSM goes to show that they weren't necessarily invincible. No one's bulletproof. The quality of teams throughout the world now for League of Legends is really quite high because we have fairly developed scenes throughout. I mean, just the sheer amount of competitive games that the European teams played this year against each other means they're strong. This is going to keep happening.
Yes, just dead. I mean, he wanted to just simply get a ward down. You could see it. That's all he wanted to do. Not going to happen, though. Didn't even get the ward in the bush?
Yeah, no, that's too quick. Not quick enough on the draw. Got to hit that ward button before you get CC'd to death. And even though it seems like Gaming Gear may just be walking around and some people will be like, man, you got to stop face-checking against SKT. SKT forces those moves because they have completely blinded Gaming Gear and they are always making Gaming Gear think they're going to be in the next bush because they usually are, and that's why so many people on Gaming Gear are dying, and that's why that Baron was completely clean.
It was completely clean, and MBS now in all sorts of trouble. He's pushed that mid turret, suddenly the lightning surge away from that one as the rest of SK Telecom come out of the mid lane Baron and with themselves a buff. They're going to keep on pushing through here.
Yeah, we got the Spirit of the Ancient Golem on Bengi. Impact has went very tanky. He's got a red elixir actually running out from the base on Renekton. SKT might be going pretty quick here. Mondu's got his ultimate on Leona. It's level 11 as well for that extra little oomph of damage. And I wonder if Gaming Gear can even hold at this turret 4v5. SKT going to be a little bit aggressive here.
Piglet getting a little carried away there, taking some turret aggro. Instead of focusing on the turret, he was focusing on trying to kill MBS. Wasn't really happening for him.
Well, Piglet does already have 4 kills. He's wanting to get a little bit more of that. And they were waiting for Renekton anyway. Impact was running back to base. He's got his red elixir now. Freedom to pop it whenever he wants. Taking a couple shots so SKT can get a little bit more turret damage. And I would not be surprised if we saw Leona ultimate comboed in with a bunch of other SKT pain right
Deadly
here.
Brother almost certainly going to be the focus of target. That turret down to half hit points already. Faker desperately trying to set up. Chain of Corruption comes out. Shockwave goes with it. Piglet did manage to avoid the damage though. Got out of there. There's Faker with his ultimate. That blows them all backwards. Deadly Brother's going to run back to the fountain. There goes the inhibitor turret. SK Telecom continuing to push on through. Impact using that taunt to try and draw Gaming Gear into a fight, but instead it's not going to happen. Going to be a clean exit for SK Telecom.
Methodical play there by SKT, even though Mazarin tried to repel them with the shockwave. And SKT didn't actually land any clean engages. The fact that the Varus ultimate was on all of SKT as they were thinking about a dive actually stopped them from all-in committing, but it did not stop them from putting damage down on the turret. And because there is still 2 minutes left on this Baron buff, the health regen that Baron buff adds is healing them up to full and allowing them to make yet another push.
SK Telecom seemingly with places to go and people to meet because they are not done here. They're pushing straight through, taking inhibitor turret down. They're going to see Impact going in. Inspiro's going to get locked up. They're going to see Slicing Maelstrom come and go very quickly from MBS there. Of course, I mentioned he hadn't really got a great deal of armor on him, only got that Seeker's Arm Guards. That's going to be another inhibitor going down for SK Telecom.
And that goes to show the Impact shutdown that happened to NBS. With all the ganks that Bengi helped him with, having no Zhonya's Hourglass on Kennen at 23 minutes means you do not have an influence over the game. You come and go with that Slicing Maelstrom. He couldn't even get a stun out because he died so quickly. And SKT is hanging around.
They want to finish this game off. You can see the Nexus turrets are the target. Super minions coming up that mid lane. They're already here. We do see Alinea going in. He's trying to slop in. There's going to be this Sunlight Fire knock-up. They're going to lock in there. Alinea is going to be the focus. Cataclysm comes out. Shockwave tries to land. Does get Bengi's passive, but that's all they're going to get. No! MBS does finally get the kill on him, but that's one Nexus turret down. SK Telecom, they're backing out.
SK Telecom still gets what they want, but I feel like Gaming Gear getting the kill on Bengi's got to feel pretty good too as well. There's only one person left on SKT that hasn't died. I feel like that is the next person in the crosshairs of Gaming Gear's assassination squad right now.
You know they want to get that kill on Faker.
You have to kill Faker.
I think everybody on the North American solo queue has been trying to get the barcode killer.
Everyone wants to kill the barcode killer right now. Faker, of course, on his North America practice account, was just wrecking some top-tier Diamond 1 and Challenger players. He played 23 Riven games. He actually lost 2 of them. So, a couple people...
Somebody got him.
Yeah.
Somebody somewhere has got screenshots.
Barcode killer,
That's
killer,
for
AMA.
sure. Absolutely. Having a bit of fun here. It is SK Telecom in absolute domination mode. 15,000 gold ahead, 9-0 in turrets. Gaming Gear trying to shove those lanes out to protect their base, but with 2 inhibitors already down and a Nexus turret, it is unlikely that they're going to come back in towards this one. SK Telecom not being flashy, honestly. No. Nothing crazy coming out from them, just systematic destruction, clear, clean play.
I was expecting a little bit of styling from SK Telecom, but I think they've kind of messed around enough for their coach's liking. I'm sure Koma, their coach, was not pleased whatsoever the fact that they lost so handily to OMG, and also some of their other victories haven't been very clean, and it's all business for SK Telecom because they're here for one reason, it's to win, and they're just trying to ramp up for that.
Chain of Corruption thrown out, only lands on Faker. That's the final inhibitor turret going down. The inhibitor will tumble afterwards. That's going to be double super minions spawning out from SK Telecom's base right now. But they don't care about that because this Nexus turret is their final target. They slam on in there. Alinea locked up. Shockwave pulls in 3 members. We're going to see the Stranglethorns bouncing through them up. But look at that. Faker goes in. MBS gets wrecked straight down by Piglet. That's going to be the Nexus turret going down. The Nexus will follow. SK Telecom will be taking victory here in Game 8 of the day up against Gaming Gear.
26-minute victory there for Faker and crew. Only 203 on Gragas, so a very controlled game there by SKT. They're definitely trying to lay low a little bit as they move into the quarterfinals. We know the eventual goal of them was not just moving out of the group stage, which they are guaranteed to do so. It was to win the Season 3 World Championship, and this is just another step on their road there. They seem to be getting a little bit more comfortable here at the world stage. You know, for some of them it was their first time out of the country. They definitely had a slow start to the group, and they are wrapping up a bit.
Absolutely. Business as usual, it seems, for SK Telecom, so they do pick up another win. Remember, they've only got 1 loss so far. That's to OMG, who they will be playing as the final game of the day. It's going to be a tasty one, that's for sure.
I'm really curious what happens in that game, because both those teams have already clinched their spots, and they know there's a chance that they could be playing each other later because they really respect their skills. We'll see what happens.
We'll see.